Does Ohio State relive 2014, or does Northwestern take us all the way back to 1995? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, previewing the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State Northwestern. For the Buckeyes, it's their fourth appearance in the conference championship game, with the inaugural game in 2011 between Michigan State and Wisconsin. For Northwestern, it's their first trip to Indianapolis after going 8-1 in the Big Ten. 0-3 non-conference, so it's one of the more improbable and odd statistics we have seen. The only Power 5 team to ever go to a conference championship game, having lost all of its non-conference games. Northwestern gave up its most points to Akron, 39, losing to the Zips. They also lost to Duke by 2 touchdowns and played a really good game against Notre Dame just a few weeks ago at Ryan Field, only losing by 3 points with 2 minutes left. Notre Dame tacked on a cushion for a touchdown there to win 31-21. Northwestern, of course, I allude to 1995, trying to get back to the Rose Bowl for the first time since then. Their coach, Pat Fitzgerald, was a captain and All-America linebacker on that team. The Wildcats losing to USC by a couple touchdowns. All right. For the Buckeyes, of course, 2014 was the season in which there was controversy for that final college football playoff selection, the 4th position in the first year of the playoff. And Ohio State, of course, blasted Wisconsin 59-0 as a 4-point underdog. That seems improbable right now. Ohio State, a 4-point underdog. That was an NFL team taking on Wisconsin. Of course, they went on to win the national championship and may need, maybe not necessarily 59-0, but an impressive showing because Oklahoma has the one-spot advantage, plus they're playing a perceived, I emphasize perceived, better team in Texas. Let's look at the Wildcats. Clayton Thorson has been the starter since he walked on campus. 4-year starters with 58 touchdown passes, 42 picks. He finally is rounding into shape physically. He tore his ACL last year in the bowl game against Kentucky. It took him the entire offseason, plus 4 or 5 games to get back into playing shape. Early in the season, Northwestern basically strategized to get the ball out of Thorson's hands so he wouldn't get hit much, and also limited his running ability. And then the big blow to the rushing attack after losing Justin Jackson, who finished his career as the all-time leading rusher for Northwestern and one of the top and most prolific rushers in Big Ten history. Jeremy Larkin was a home run hitter, a guy that had a 5th gear that Jackson did not have, got off to a great start, and then unfortunately had to retire because of a spinal injury. So Northwestern's rushing attack was a mess for a few weeks, and then they discovered Isaiah Bowser. Ironically, the freshman is Mr. Ohio high school football as the #1 rated player, not rated in regards to recruiting rankings, but in terms of production as his senior season unfolded, the best player in Ohio. Again, not in terms of talent, but in terms of productivity, like Joe Burrow was, who is now the LSU quarterback. All right, so Northwestern rushing game in good hands with Bowser right now. He's a grinder. He's a between-the-tackles guy for the most part. In the passing game, they've got Ben Skoranek, who's the guy that gets downfield. Cam Green is the superback guy who was converted from wide receiver. And then, of course, Flynn Nagel with 64 catches leads the team out of the slot, but he's been banged up for the past 3 games. So Northwestern trying to find some offense against Ohio State. They've got an experienced line. They've got an okay running game and an okay passing game. And the metrics tell us that Northwestern is actually the 73rd best team in the country. They are not the 73rd best team in the country, but that's what the metrics tell us. So statistically, they're an anomaly. They find ways to win. They are the classic version of finding ways to win. They're also, this season in 2018, a classic version of playing up to their competition, up to Notre Dame, up to Michigan, and then up to Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue, beating those teams, beating Michigan State on the road as well, playing down to Akron and down to a few other teams like that. All right, for the Buckeyes, here we go. Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. The offensive line has been much better. Gave up not just 0 sacks against Michigan, but also 0 quarterback hurries. Dwayne Haskins set the all-time Big Ten record in a single season for yards over Curtis Painter and surpassed Drew Brees for the most touchdowns with 42. He's obviously a monster and the most dynamic player on the field on both sides of the ball. He throws to a plethora of receivers. This Chris Olave has become a bit of a find in recent weeks as he has been a menace in the passing game. 2 touchdown receptions against Michigan, and he blocked the punt that broke the game open 34-19. Chris Olave, a freshman out of California. You've got KJ Hill in the slot. You got Paris Campbell, the leading receiver on the outside, also took a handoff 78 yards for a touchdown, and that might be something that Northwestern cannot contain. I expect them to stay close, to play tough, to play hard-nosed, and to have their heads in the game and really play a smart football game and be put in position by their coaching staff to succeed. But Paris Campbell did the same thing to Wisconsin last year. The Buckeyes have the elite speed. They have the elite athleticism, the NFL players for the most part, probably a 3-to-1 ratio over Wisconsin last year, and probably more like a 5-to-6-1 NFL player ratio over Northwestern. Paris Campbell turned the corner against Michigan, the number 1 rated defense in the country, and nobody could come close to him. He did that against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game last year. All right, of course, Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins at running back for the Buckeyes should have been more productive this year, but look out for a possible playoff run in the running game as Ohio State has gotten it cranked up in recent weeks against Michigan State. Against Maryland, Dobbins went for over 200 yards, and against Michigan as well. Defensively for the Buckeyes, I like Robert Landers up the middle, provided some disruptive plays against Michigan, also Chase Young from the outside. And what about Malik Harrison? Shot out of a cannon several times against Michigan. Really did a nice job. Finally a linebacker for the Buckeyes. Played well and played like an elite player. Malik Harrison diagnosed so many plays. In looking at the end zone camera on a number of plays, they showed where he was able to diagnose the play, not get fooled, and then once he made his decision, once he located the football, bam, he was there. And that's what the Buckeyes need. Brendan White, over the latter portion of the season, the last 3 or 4 games, has been a find as well at safety. On defense for Northwestern against this Buckeyes attack, Joe Gaziano with 19 career sacks would be the one guy you would expect to possibly get to Dwayne Haskins. He is the most consistent pass rusher by far for the Wildcats. Nobody else has more than 2 sacks. Blake Gallagher is an emerging star, had a breakout season for the Wildcats at linebacker, leading the team in tackles, and also Patty Fisher is a captain at linebacker and the second leading tackler for NU. In the secondary, Montrell Hardage, Trey Williams, Jared McGee are all really good players. Hardage, especially the best cover corner they have. Unfortunately, he's missed 3 consecutive games. The other 2 guys have been injured. They're in trouble in the secondary if they're not healthy, reasonably healthy for Ohio State. I think Northwestern's going to keep it somewhat close, stay within a couple scores. Buckeyes win it 34-23. That's the score. 34-23. The score right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I would like to hear your prediction. Leave your prediction down in the comments section for the Big Ten championship game, and we'll be back with more of the conference championship previews and predictions right here at the voice of college football, Mark Rogers TV.